It's easy to spot a Gehry building simply by looking at the way it cuts through the sky. His style utilizes unique shapes to differentiate itself from the boxy lines of a typical building. Gehry uses curved lines heavily throughout his work in order to convey an organic feeling. This concept stems from his atypical design process. Gehry himself would be the first to say that his drawing skills are not the best. However, he refuses to let that impede his design. Rather, he makes it a feature. When Gehry sits down to make a sketch, he employs a simple contour line style for his art, or as he would say, a scribble. By starting with this chaotic approach, Gehry is able to capture the organic nature of his freehand sketches and embed it into the design in a very unique way. He wants the design of his buildings to capture the pluralistic nature of democracy. In his own words, it makes a certain contribution to chaos because it's pluralistic. It offers a lot of possibilities, ways, and conflicts. It boosts my ambitions because I like the idea of democracy and choice. Our built environment is a product of democracy. It creates a lot of variance, alternative courses, and conflicts. Many people deny it and return to the models of the 19th century. I don't understand it. I think it leads to the politics of the 19th century. We should learn to live in the present and to understand what chaos is and what democracy does. This is important to consider as it provides a key detail to understanding Gehry's goal as an architect, designing buildings to complement our modern society and lifestyle. The most obvious implementation of Gehry's style is his creative use of curves in his work. However, designing buildings with curves was not always feasible, often being too complex to design by hand and too costly to engineer. This changed with the advent of computer modeling. One of Gehry's foundational influences is his love for sailing, or more specifically, he loves the chaos of sailing. Gehry's fascination with the ever-changing nature of our society permeates all aspects of his life and his architecture. In order to capture the motion and express these ideas, he uses design tropes and manufacturing techniques from the shipbuilding industry. This also presented Gehry with the perfect excuse to try new computer modeling techniques in his work. By incorporating these new techniques into his process, Gehry opened a new world of possibilities for his designs, including wave-like shapes and folds that give the viewer a sense of awe. The use of these natural forms plays heavily into his goal of creating organic buildings, using human subconscious observations to his advantage in conveying his message. Gehry also uses texture and material to influence the consumers of his art and portray his message. Early on in his career, Gehry surrounded himself with a group of like-minded artists. It was through this group that he developed his love for ordinary materials. The idea was so influential to Gehry as it made his work more accessible to the typical viewer, attempting to rid of the prestigiousness that often surrounds architecture. Incorporating common materials like chain-link fencing further plays on human subconsciousness and gives designs an earnest feel. Clearly, Gehry highly values human responses and emotions when designing his buildings. This concept was central to his project at Case Western University when he was presented the difficult task of designing their new management school. The main purpose of this project was to bring name recognition to the university and curtail the inferiority complex that developed on campus. By providing students with a new, beautiful facility to be proud of, Gehry was able to change those perspectives and gain notoriety for Case Western. The next goal of this facility was to bring learning experience to the 21st century and foster a broader institutional change. By applying his philosophy and unique techniques, Gehry was able to approach this challenge with ease and deliver on these goals. Somehow, Gehry manages to juggle all these competing elements in a way that creates a very engaging and balanced environment. His design language naturally puts students in a creative mindset, evoking emotion, spirit, and intellect to encourage the extraordinary thinking. This ties back into Gehry's fascination for democracy and free thought, as well as his focus on the future with contemporary takes on education, a field which is often held back by its reliance on out-of-date teaching techniques. His approach, while it started off as disruptive, is now sought after by major city planners across the world. Gehry's buildings span the globe, from the structure in Millennium Park in Chicago, to the Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles, to the Dancing House in Prague. He has his own style that stands apart from his contemporaries, and clearly with the high demand and admiration, this unique style will influence people for years to come.